Right now, they are crying and saying all the right things, promising to change, offering to go to therapy, and telling me how much they love me. I want to believe it, but I've been here before. How do narcissists apologize, and how can I tell if this is real or just another way to pull me back in?
Mhm. It's such a confusing time when narcissists apologize. And I put that in quotes because are they really apologizing? And we'll get to that. But it almost gets easier if a narcissist continues to act badly because it starts to make more sense. Like, okay, I can expect that this person is going to act badly. But when they do apologize or in those moments where they seem to take a little bit of accountability, completely throws you off. That can be super destabilizing. So, why would a narcissist apologize anyways? Well, one of a few reasons. A, to avoid consequences, because perhaps they have been found out. Maybe they've kind of been ousted at work. People know what they've been doing behind the scenes or how they've been embezzling money or not doing things that are good for the company. Perhaps they were found cheating or family found out something about them and their lifestyle and that didn't make them look good in the family. And so they might apologize to try to avoid consequences. They can apologize to hoover you. So in that narcissistic cycle of abuse, we have idealize, devalue, discard, hoover. Hoover is when they're literally trying to suck you back into the relationship, either literally like physically they want to get back with you or get to talking to you again, or they just want to smooth things over. They want things to go back to how they were. They kind of they just want the consequences to stop. They want you to stop asking them questions or following up on things. So they may apologize just to try to settle things in the relationship. And they also do it just to end a conversation they don't want to have. And so let's say that you might be getting to the truth of things, or you are asking them questions that they don't really want to give you the answers to. They may just see an apology as a quick and easy way to kind of basically get you off their back. I know in my experiences, I've definitely dealt with that with narcissists where they even admitted to me later that they weren't really sorry, but they just really didn't want to have the conversation and didn't want to deal with it. And so they just kind of threw a sorry out there. And what you also typically notice from narcissists is that they tend to apologize in generalities. They say things like, "Oh, I'm sorry about that. That didn't go the way I wanted to. Oh, yeah, we both kind of said things that we shouldn't have." And so they're usually not apologizing for specific things like, "I'm sorry for lying to you about this and it impacted you like this. And I understand I'm going to have to do this to rebuild the relationship." It's not like a plan. It's not a connection of like what they did and how it impacted you and then how they're going to have to make amends to that. It's more like a blanket sorry and apology for things not generally going well, or not having the best outcome. But a lot of times, if you are a reflective, empathetic person, you assume the best and you think in your mind, oh, well, maybe they just have a tough time apologizing. Maybe it's hard for them to take accountability for this. So you take that very general apology and go, wow, look at the changes they're making when they haven't really done anything. So just be mindful of that. And also just be mindful that just because someone looks sad and they're apologizing and they say sorry, doesn't mean that they're actually sorry for what they did. They're sorry for the consequences they had to deal with because of what they did. And so oftentimes we make it mean they are sorry for hurting me. They are sorry for what they did. They understand lying and betraying or cheating is wrong and they feel bad for that. But oftentimes, what a narcissist means is, I'm sorry I'm having to deal with this. I'm sorry that this is such a consequence and this is such a headache for me in my life right now. And I'm sorry that we're having to have this conversation. It's more of a sorry about what they're having to deal with rather than a sorry for what they did and how it impacted you. And so, what I would encourage people to do if you have a narcissist that's apologizing and you're like, well, is this real or not? Give them time and space to show you if it's real. It's super easy to say sorry, to apologize, and look like you're sorry. That's what narcissists basically do for a living. They pretend like they're someone they're not. This is not hard for them to look like they're sorry or look like they're supposed to look remorseful when they're supposed to. And you don't have to know right now if they are telling the truth or not. How can you? I know oftentimes we feel a lot of need and kind of anxiety to know right now, like, okay, they apologize. What am I going to do now? You don't have to do anything. You can decide not to decide. Give them time and space to see if they're actually going to follow through. Not only do they need to apologize, but they're going to need to make amends and they're going to need to make the changes to let you know that they understand what they did and how it impacted you. And while you're giving them that space and time to see if they're going to change, you take time and space to see if this is actually what you want. Because as the listeners you said described, this isn't the first time they've apologized. This isn't the first time that you've been here and you've seen this pattern and they've apologized and they said that they've got it and they said that they're sorry and they said they're going to change. So you need to reflect and take a step back and go, okay, even if they do get it this time, is this what I want? Is this healthy for me? Is this good for me? Is this a wise decision? And so you also give yourself that space to go, even if they do change this time, is this still good for me? And give yourself time and space to get clarity on that and to see what they do and then make your decision.
Thank you so much. Um, I was also thinking that it might be helpful to briefly go over what does real apology in a healthy, coming from a
Mm.
healthy, like a person who isn't like a narcissist, what does it look like and what are some like basic elements into it? So then it might be easier to understand how far from that
Mm.
narcissists' apologies usually are. So can you just come up, like what comes to your mind if you think about like a
Yeah.
real apology? What does it actually include?
Well, it includes, of course, a lot of the stuff we can't see. So a lot of that genuine remorse and kind of sick to your stomach feeling like, oh man, if you're doing the apologizing, like, oh, I really hurt somebody. And what healthy people do when they apologize, when they realize that they've done something wrong, is they see your second chance or your forgiveness as a gift. And they want to cherish it and they want to take it and they make a pact and a commitment like, I never want to hurt that person like that again. And so they are going to tell you specifically what they did, how it impacted you. If they don't fully understand what they did and how it impacted you, they're going to give you this space to tell them how it impacted you. Uh, and that's really something else that healthy people will do is they actually ask you what you need from them and they want to hear how it impacted you. And they're also okay with the time that it's going to take to repair. They're not like in a week from now after they've cheated for 6 months. Oh, are you not over this? Are we seriously talking about this? Like you need to go, get some therapy. Have you talked to your therapist about this? You really need some help. Like you need to forgive. They do not turn it back on you. And that is a classic that narcissists will do. They might apologize, they might say sorry, but in a very short amount of time, they expect you to get over it. And healthy people don't do that. They know that a real apology starts with changed behavior. And so they don't expect you to believe anything from them initially. They expect you to wait and see what they do and see how they act and see how they change. And so that's another dead giveaway too that you're dealing with a narcissistic apology is that they want that immediate shift. Like, okay, said sorry. Can we get this going? Like, I'm kind of done with this by now. A healthy person will be humble. They will be patient. They will be genuine, specific in their apology, and really let you take the lead for what they need to do to show you that they're truly sorry.
Thank you. Also, I was talking with one person and are also in this situation where they seem to all the time get into the situation where the narcissistic person is apologizing again and they are kind of like thinking like what is going on, I am again here.
Mm-hmm.
And they were describing like the different ways the narcissist in their life, like they seem to use like all different types of ways they like apologize, and many of them already came up in your answer and as we have discussed.
Mm-hmm.
And one specific thing that's like really hard for them to kind of deal with is when they use guilt or fear at the same time they're apologizing.
Yes.
So saying, I'm so sorry, but you are the only one who understands me. I can't live without
Mm,
you. So isn't like it's so twisted in a way that even when they apologize, that's
yes.
again like about them. Like all of a sudden, like the conversation turns back to how they can't live without you. And I think that's very
Yep.
hard for people who are empathetic and you know they might love this person and like be very invested in this relationship, then hearing that and then with the sorry and all of a sudden you feel intense guilt and like fear also, you don't want to like hurt them, so it's just
Right.
really difficult. And other thing that gets people stuck in this, I believe, is the big promises that they go to therapy. Maybe they don't even actually go there, they just say that they go. And then one big one I think that has come up a lot is how they blame like maybe their own childhood trauma or some external factors, like I was stressed or I was so you are so stressful in this relationship, so I had to go cheat and, you know,
Yeah.
really, let that stress out or something like that. And yeah, so
Mm,
it's really tough.
that's very true. I'm so glad you brought that up. Yes, guilt and fear along with it. And that can definitely get into the space of Darvo, that gaslighting where they deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender role. So they may say, "Well, I'm sorry for this, but you," and they turn it right back, like right around back on you. And if you're a self-reflective, empathetic person, you're like, man, oh, I did do that. I did hurt them too. And then you start to feel like you're equally responsible for the problems in the relationship. And that adds to that feeling of the trauma bond, or like we're both just two toxic individuals who hurt each other that have to make things work. And we both have to apologize, but at least we're sticking it through. Like, oh, it can add to all of those kinds of ideas. So, yeah, if they're making it about anything other than what they did, mm, there's something going on there because they should be able to just own their part of it. And then if they have a problem with you, they can address that at a later time. But to use guilt, like, well, you're not perfect either, or fear of, well, if you leave me now, I'm just going to be so much better for the next person. Those kinds of toxic, statements, that often comes from narcissistic apologies too.
Yeah. So you're saying like in a healthy relationship that it's like what is like kind of quote unquote more normal is that okay, someone does something that hurts the other person, they take accountability, they like say sorry, they work on changing the behavior and like actually change it, and
Mm-hmm.
like if they have a problem, they make it into another conversation. They never like start that conversation like during that when they are supposed to apologize. They make it, they keep it separate, so that it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't like come off
Yeah.
as, I don't know how to say it, manipulative, or that they are trying to avoid the accountability or something like that.
Right. And that's if you're dealing with a narcissist, that's a pattern that you'll see throughout the relationship that anytime you try to bring something up, they immediately bring it back on you. And so doing that in an apology is no different. They're just continuing that same pattern of blame shifting, projecting, gaslighting, denying, minimizing, all of those patterns we see in narcissistic relationships too. And they definitely do that. Like it's like an apology is dumped in the middle of manipulation and gaslighting and guilt tripping and all of that. And so that does not make for a genuine or authentic apology.
Yeah, I think seeing it that way might be easier to actually spot it. So whenever you receive this apology again,
Yes.
like look what's else around it. Like how do they
Right.
deliver it? Don't just look at the word sorry or hear the word sorry, but just look how it's delivered, what else is there, and you might have like a way easier time to kind of really understand like what's actually happening here and be
Yeah,
less confused.
exactly. Yeah.